I don't believe that we'll ever truly be ready for disclosure, but that will not stop it from happening. Who's ever ready to have their first child? Nobody. You have it anyway. We will have disclosure. It will be forced upon the political leaders, and it'll be a big mess. My own feeling is it'll be messy. It'll be unpleasant in many ways. Anytime you have any kind of growth, whether it's personal, spiritual growth or political growth in the society, that means you shed illusions, you shed lies. And that's a difficult process. And we'll have to go through that process. There's really no way around it. There are many, many billions of people in this world who are attached to a certain paradigm, a certain way of picturing the world. And disclosure will shatter that. It'll just get discarded. So it'll be difficult. But the alternative is being spoon-fed lies the rest of your life. And how long can humanity do this? So I think we're at a point where the question that I have asked myself is, what will be the trigger? It could be a leak. It could be a WikiLeaks type of event. It could be a mass sighting, which now with new technologies, we're capturing things more and more. It could be something totally unexpected that we can't even predict because our society is changing so dramatically. If you go back to the 1950s when all of this was kind of new culturally to people, I think it would have been a great, great shock to understand just how strange this phenomenon is. Back in the 50s, people thought, oh, men from another planet in metal spaceships landing, and I think it's a lot more complicated than that. All right, they're not just coming here for the first time, take me to your leader. That's not how it's going down. And so it takes generations for true, deep ideological change, conceptual change to take place. For me, what's important is the understanding that we live in a world that is truly upside down, in which the reality that we are told 24/7 that we're supposed to believe is bullshit, all right? And so what we have to do is we have to figure out a way, A, to penetrate that lie, and B, to bravely to speak the truth, and then to find a way to reconstruct a positive reality that we can all kind of move ahead with. And that's what it comes down to. Now, it is true, as one of my friend colleagues has put it, UFO research is kind of in the intellectual ghetto of our culture. And so as a result, anytime this happens, with any kind of group that's out on the edges of respectability, A, they're fighting for respectability. There's always a lot of infighting. Some of that infighting is just genuine people disagreeing. Some of it could very well be from COINTELPRO type plants, which exist. That's a reality. And so it's very easy for this field to breed paranoia, hostility, suspicion, and whatnot. And that's absolutely the rule. And when you get into this field, when I got into this field, I looked around and I said, who do I trust and who do I trust not so much? Everyone gets into this research presumably out of intellectual curiosity or passion. And it's possible for anyone, and I don't care how much integrity you start with, it's possible for anyone to lose sight if they don't keep reminding themselves every day of what really matters. And at a certain point, everyone here is going to be dead. We live and we die. Whether you die at age 35 or 85, you're here and you're gone. So you have to ask yourself what matters. All right? And I'll tell you what I don't ever want to happen to me. I don't ever want to be at my moment of death and look back and see that I threw my integrity away because it felt nice and because I said whatever seemed to be popular at the time. I mean, I'm just telling you personally where it's been very difficult. Where, honestly, Michael, I'm sure, can speak about this easily as well as I can, Michael Tellinger. You're flooded with emails. You're flooded with people who are tugging you in all different directions. There are people who have literally tried to destroy me in the past. There are people who have absolutely tried to undermine my research by sending me false leads. It's happened. I used to get stopped at airports in the U.S. for several years in a row because they didn't like my name. whatever it was that I said. There's always something. I had a Time Warner cable guy come into my house years ago who said, holy crap, your house is bugged up. You have no idea. I mean, this is true. All of this happened. So, I don't know. I mean, at a certain point, I think I just decided I stopped caring that I was either whether I was under attack or whether enough people had me in their crosshairs that they wanted to take me down. I literally just stopped caring. And once you stop caring about that, and you only care about the integrity of your work and the legacy that you hope you will leave, everything becomes much more simple to me. But I've stayed sane, and you know, this is a field, when you go into any field where your old paradigm gets shredded to 1,000 little pieces and tossed to the winds, which is what happens in this field. If you're brave enough, it happens. You've got to be strong. You cannot be weak. And I think what people will find if they go into what I lovingly call the fringe is that they will often find strength inside themselves that they didn't realize they have. I found that. I found that. Over the years, I've collected a lot of strange stories from people. People write to me all the time. And what has become clear to me is the level of absolute bizarre strangeness that so many people live in that they share with nobody. Nobody. But they share it with me frequently. And I've collected a lot of these stories. One of them, I'll just throw out a hint. This is men and women. This is a woman who had a child that should never have existed. She should never have become pregnant. Something very bizarre happened. She'd had sightings and encounters, bizarre encounters her whole life. Men in black following her. In other words, I guess what I'm saying is that this is just one. This is one microcosm. There are people who are supposed to give birth to certain types of children. I believe this now. And there's an agenda. And I'm trying to figure this out. But I've come across a number of these cases. This is getting close to maybe like what some abduction researchers have been looking at, you know, alien agenda, hybrids and so forth, but there's something different. This is not the same thing. There's an agenda in which non-humans, I believe, are seeding certain human females with I can't believe I'm saying this, with the babies that they're supposed to have. And this process is being monitored by covert, clandestine human groups. And I know this is true. So it's a matter of putting together enough research to put this together and turn it into a substantial piece of research in a book. And I'm planning to do it. You know, we're kept into a tiny little reality box. This is what our reality is supposed to be. In my 20 years of researching this subject, one thing that I've learned is that every time I think that I've broken through to the other side, to a new reality, there's another veil there. And I just keep tearing away veils. It has not stopped yet. I mean, it's just so much. You know, back 20 years ago, it was almost comical how conservative my attitude was. 20 years ago, I wanted to know one thing only. I did not even want to know, were UFOs real? All I wanted to, or aliens, or were there crop circles? I didn't care about any of that. I wanted one question, which was this a phenomenon that my country's military cared about? That's it. And if they cared about it, why was it not in any history book that I ever studied? That was it. Well, I determined very quickly that yes, this was a thing they sure as hell did care about. And why wasn't it in the history book? So I had to keep going. And then that just leads to more questions and more questions. So every time you tear away the illusions, you tear away the lie, you're in a new, better place, but then you realize, oh, I'm really not out of it yet. And it's been 20 years of doing this. I think that we are right on the cusp of transforming ourselves as a species. I don't know if it's for the better or not, to be honest with you. You know, are we trying to turn ourselves into super intelligent robots? Sometimes I think that's what I see. You know, genetic manipulation, people afraid to die, so they want to live forever. I think it's a bad idea. And, you know, probably putting nanochips inside ourselves, and within 50 years, will there even be good old-fashioned unenhanced Homo sapiens? There's a question. Will we be in a transhumanist type of environment fully even then? I have a hope and I have a fear. And I don't like hope or fear. I actually try to live without both of them, but I have a hope and a fear. My fear is that we'll have a global fascist totalitarian state that is complete genetic control over all people and customizes different types of human beings. Some brilliant, some not so brilliant, some different physical characteristics, all to fit the little you know, pegs to fit in all those slots that they want. That to me would be the worst nightmare ever possible, but it is possible. My hope is that we actually don't try to turn ourselves into superhuman robots, that we actually try to find a way to live natural, organic, untoxified lives, a natural human lifespan. I don't think there's anything wrong with you know, living only a century, personally, and in which we simply try to be as much in touch with ourselves and what we're supposed to be biologically as we can be. And that includes our spiritual side, which I happen to take very seriously. I think that we have a spiritual side and it matters. By trying to turn ourselves into superhuman robots, my fear is that we're really losing sight of what we're really supposed to be. So that's a whole other battle to fight. But we're really on the cusp of that. We're on the cusp of that. I mean, if you step back a couple of centuries from now, they're going to look back at our time and they're going to say, this is when these people are starting to do that. We're toxifying ourselves in such a bad way. You know, we may get to the point in another few generations where we don't have a natural world left, where we don't have heirloom anything except maybe, you know, stored away for the elites in their bunkers. So are we going to wipe ourselves out at the moment that we're about to overpopulate the world? It could be. I don't know. The good news is that we're now in a world where, for the first time ever, ordinary people around the world are able to communicate with each other. We're able to share knowledge. We're able to organize in ways that were never, ever possible. Even one generation ago would have been a fantasy. And it's not a fantasy now. So we're in an era now where you can rip digital data out of classified vaults and throw them out for the world to see for the first time. And we're only at the beginning of that. So everything's different now. Everything is totally different now. And I do really feel this in my bones, that we are right on the cusp of a massive, massive transformation, an upheaval. And it'll be probably filled with cultural wars, maybe a bit of a mess, but that does not mean it won't be something much, much positive coming out on the other side, which I do believe. I'm an optimist in that regard. I think that we're not going to fall off a cliff and go back to you know, sticks and stones. I think that we'll continue. I think we'll have a better, and I think we can create a more just society. It has to be based on truth, not lies. And the biggest reality, as I see it, is the presence of these other intelligences that are here on Earth, interacting with humanity in some very important way that we need to understand. I have often felt it's a great paradox. I still feel that way. I think it's impossible, but it is inevitable. And impossible in the sense that our political leaders have no incentive ever, or not even the political leaders, the secret keepers themselves who stand behind the political system have no incentive for giving this secret up. They have too much to lose. But it will happen nonetheless. We're in an utterly revolutionary transition period of our own civilization. All you have to do is look at the last 20 years, look ahead to the next 20 years. It's obvious. It's obvious something is going to give. You know, who are these guys? Are they the descendants of the Anunnaki? Are they simply the proteges of the current banksters who run the world today? Are they reptilian, shape-shifting reptilians like David Icke talks about? Whatever they are, there's always been a very small group of people who don't give a shit about the rest of humanity. And they don't care.
This has been the Confidential Report. For even more stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel today. And please show your support by clicking the like button on this video. For even more stories and news you deserve to know the truth about, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching the Confidential Report.